The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast space. Rebecca Thompson walked forward, her black boots clicking against the polished floor. Every eye in the enormous room turned to watch her approach the center podium. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, but the fabric was torn in 3 places and scorched along one sleeve. These were battle scars, reminders of the 3 times alien forces had tried to destroy her world. Behind Rebecca, enormous screens flickered to life, showing images that made several alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. Twisted chunks of metal floated in the darkness of space. These were not asteroids or space debris. They were the remains of warships, massive vessels that had once carried thousands of alien warriors to Earth with conquest in their hearts. Rebecca stopped at the podium and placed her hands on its smooth surface. She looked up at the hundreds of different species that filled the council chamber. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that her mind struggled to understand their basic shape. There were insect-like creatures with multiple arms, beings made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light, and massive warriors whose skin looked like living armor. Honored delegates, Rebecca began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation system. Within seconds, her words were converted into dozens of different languages and broadcast directly into the minds of every being present. You have attacked my world 3 times. 3 times, you have failed. A low murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Some delegates clicked their mandibles nervously. Others shifted their crystalline forms, creating musical chiming sounds. The massive warrior species simply stared with unblinking eyes. General William Hayes stood beside the podium, his own uniform bearing similar battle damage. He pressed a control on his wrist device, and the screens behind Rebecca changed. Now they showed the wreckage of bioships, organic vessels that looked like enormous sea creatures. Their once living hulls were cracked and lifeless, floating like dead whales in the cosmic ocean. The first fleet came 18 months ago, Rebecca continued, her voice steady and calm. Your Serpentine Empire sent 2 million bioships to consume our planet and add our genetic material to your collective. We sent them home in pieces. The Serpentine delegate, a creature that looked like a massive snake with arms, coiled more tightly around its platform. Its forked tongue flicked out nervously, tasting the air for signs of danger. Rebecca gestured to William, who activated another display. This time the screens showed something even more disturbing. Weapons that could crack planets in half, reality bombs that could rewrite the laws of physics in local space, and devices that fed on the life force of entire star systems. All of them were broken, their deadly purpose ended. The second wave brought planet killers and reality bombs, Rebecca said, her eyes finding the delegates from the crystal hegemony. You thought that weapons which could destroy suns would be enough to end human resistance. Instead, we turned your weapons against you. Your own reality bombs consumed 3 of your battle fleets before you could retreat. The crystalline beings dimmed their inner light, a sign of shame and fear among their species. They had ruled this section of the galaxy for over 10,000 years, but 47 of their greatest war vessels now floated as lifeless crystal formations in Earth's solar system. At the highest platform in the chamber sat Council Prime Marcus Kane, the supreme ruler of the most powerful military alliance in known space. He was humanoid but stood nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed with inner fire. His species, the Dominion, had conquered more worlds than any other in galactic history. They were the ones who had convinced the other powers to attack Earth in the first place. Marcus leaned forward, his massive hands gripping the arms of his throne. Human, he said, his voice like grinding stone, you speak of victories, but you defend only one small world at the edge of our galaxy. We control 10,000 star systems. Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of millions. Rebecca smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. It was the smile of a predator that had just spotted prey. That brings us to the third invasion, she said. 3 months ago, you sent everything you had. Every species represented in this chamber contributed ships to what you called the Final Crusade. 4 to 7 million vessels, carrying your finest warriors and your most advanced weapons. She paused, letting her words sink in. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the usual background hum of life support systems seemed muted. 4 to 7 ships returned, Rebecca continued. Not 47,000. Not 4,700. 4 to 7 ships out of 4 to 7 million. The crews who survived were allowed to live for one reason only, to carry a message back to you. William activated one final display. This showed Earth's solar system, but it looked nothing like the peaceful blue world that most of these aliens remembered from their intelligence reports. The asteroid belt glowed with contained energy. The moons of the outer planets bristled with unknown installations. And Earth itself pulsed with power readings that should have been impossible for a single planet to generate. "This is your final warning," Rebecca stated, her voice cutting through the absolute silence like a blade. "Leave our system. Withdraw from all human colonies. Cancel any plans for future attacks. Because if you come for us again, we will not merely defend ourselves." She stepped closer to the podium, her hands gripping its edges. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but the translation system carried her words to every being in the chamber with perfect clarity. "We will end your civilizations entirely. We will hunt you across the galaxy until not one of your species draws breath. We will turn your homeworlds into cosmic dust and scatter it across the void. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Test us again, and learn why humanity survives." 3 months had passed since Earth's warning echoed across the galaxy, and Admiral James Morrison stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. The massive vessel stretched for nearly 50 kilometers, its hull bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Around him, holographic displays showed the largest military gathering in galactic history taking shape. 10 million ships, Admiral Morrison announced to his fellow commanders, his voice filled with confidence. Every major power in the galaxy has contributed their finest vessels to this effort. Humanity cannot possibly stand against such overwhelming force. The other military leaders nodded in agreement. General Patricia Wells of the Machine Collective adjusted her cybernetic implants as she reviewed the fleet composition. "My automated swarms alone number 2 million vessels. Each one can adapt to any defensive strategy within seconds of engagement." Captain Elizabeth Ross, representing the Void Hunters, smiled coldly. "Our phase-shifting battle cruisers can attack from dimensions that humans cannot even detect. They will be destroyed before they know we are there." Admiral Morrison walked to the massive viewing window that dominated the command center. Outside, the assembled armada stretched as far as the eye could see. Ships of every conceivable design floated in perfect formation, their running lights creating a constellation of death that spanned several light-years. The Crystal Hegemony had contributed their reality-warping siege engines, massive structures that could rewrite the laws of physics in local space. The Serpentine Empire brought their bioships, living vessels that could regenerate damage and adapt to enemy weapons. The Hive Collective sent swarm fleets that moved like schools of deadly fish through space. "The humans got lucky," Admiral Morrison continued, turning back to face his commanders. 3 separate victories against inferior forces does not make them invincible. We represent the combined military might of civilizations that have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Captain David Parker of the War Machine Dynasty activated a tactical display showing Earth's solar system. Intelligence reports indicate they have fortified their homeworld, but they are still limited to defending a single star system. "We have ships from 6 different galaxies, each bringing technologies that complement the others." Admiral Morrison nodded approvingly. "The humans rely on surprise and superior individual technology. But they have never faced anything like this coordinated assault. When 10 million ships attack simultaneously from multiple dimensions and realities, their defenses will crumble." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, President David Parker stood in the war room buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. The chamber was filled with the soft hum of computers and the quiet conversations of military personnel. General Patricia Wells pointed to the massive tactical display that dominated one wall, showing a sea of red dots approaching their solar system. "They will arrive in 48 hours, Mr. President," she reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat. "Long-range sensors indicate approximately 10 million combat vessels. Every major hostile power in the galaxy has contributed ships to this fleet." President Parker studied the display carefully. Each red dot represented a ship capable of destroying cities with single shots. Together, they formed an armada that could sterilize entire star systems. "What is our defensive status?" Dr. Michael Carter, the elderly scientist who led Earth's most classified weapons projects, stepped forward. His white hair was disheveled from working around the clock, and his lab coat was stained with coffee and exhaustion. "The Solar Defense Network is fully operational, Mr. President. Jupiter's moons have been converted into gravitational weapon platforms. The asteroid belt deployment is complete." "And the other projects?" President Parker asked quietly. Dr. Carter's expression grew somber. "The reality distortion generators are online. The quantum virus deployment system is ready. The null cannons have passed all tests." He paused, looking directly at the president. "Sir, if we activate these weapons, there will be no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." General Wells moved to another display showing the evacuation of Earth's orbital stations. All non-essential personnel have been relocated to the backup colonies. Critical government functions have been transferred to the underground facilities. We are as ready as we can be. President Parker walked to the center of the room, where a single red button sat under a clear protective cover. This was the activation control for humanity's most devastating weapons, systems so powerful that they had only been tested in computer simulations. They were warned, he said quietly. We gave them every opportunity to walk away. Back on the approaching alien fleet, Admiral Morrison reviewed the final attack plans with his commanders. The strategy was simple but devastating. The first wave would consist of 4 million ships attacking from normal space, overwhelming any conventional defenses. The second wave would phase in from alternate dimensions, hitting the humans from angles they could not possibly defend. The third wave would deploy reality bombs and planet killers, ensuring that nothing remained of Earth or its solar system. Once we eliminate humanity, the rest of the galaxy will remember why our civilizations have ruled for millennia, Admiral Morrison declared. No upstart species will ever again dare to challenge the established order. Captain Ross activated her personal communicator, sending final coordination signals to the Void Hunter fleet. My ships will begin the dimensional assault in 36 hours. By this time tomorrow, Earth will be nothing but cosmic dust. The alien armada continued its relentless approach toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming numbers and superior technology. They had conquered thousands of worlds using these same tactics. Humanity would be no different. But deep in Earth's underground command centers, Dr. Carter made final adjustments to weapons that operated on principles the approaching fleet could not even comprehend. President Parker placed his hand on the activation control, ready to unleash forces that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. The greatest military force in galactic history rushed toward what they believed would be an easy victory, completely unaware that they were flying directly into humanity's carefully prepared trap. The massive alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system with a flash of light that could be seen from Mars. Admiral James Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as 10 million ships materialized in perfect formation around him. The armada stretched across space like a deadly metal ocean, each vessel bristling with weapons that had conquered countless worlds. Begin the attack, Admiral Morrison commanded, his voice carrying across the communication networks to every ship in the fleet. Show these humans the price of defying the galaxy's rightful rulers. The first wave of 4 million ships surged forward toward Earth, their engines creating brilliant streams of light in the darkness. Captain Elizabeth Ross smiled from her command chair as her Void Hunter vessels began shifting into alternate dimensions, preparing to attack from angles that no defense could possibly cover. But something was wrong. Sir, reported Commander Thomas Blake from his sensor station, his voice confused. The asteroid belt is showing massive energy readings. Those aren't normal asteroids. Admiral Morrison frowned and focused his attention on the tactical display. What had appeared to be a simple asteroid belt suddenly came alive with power signatures that made his blood run cold. Each space rock was hollow, packed with enough antimatter to vaporize a moon. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted, but it was already too late. The asteroid belt detonated in a carefully timed sequence that had been planned for months. Billions of tons of antimatter exploded simultaneously, creating a wall of pure energy that stretched across the entire inner solar system. The first million alien ships vanished instantly, consumed by forces that turned matter into pure light. But this was only the beginning. Jupiter's 4 largest moons suddenly revealed their true purpose. What Earth scientists had told the galaxy were simple mining operations were actually gravitational manipulation stations. Massive machines hidden beneath the moon's surfaces activated, creating invisible hands of twisted spacetime that reached out and grabbed enemy ships. Captain David Parker of the War Machine dynasty watched in horror as his massive dreadnought was seized by forces he could not see. The gravitational fields compressed his ship like an invisible fist, crushing the kilometer-long vessel into a ball of twisted metal no larger than a car. What kind of weapons are these? He screamed into his communicator before the gravitational forces tore him apart at the molecular level. Mars launched its own surprise. The red planet's surface split open in dozens of places, revealing launch tubes that had been carved deep into the planet's core. From these hidden silos came projectiles moving at nearly the speed of light, relativistic kill vehicles that struck with the force of small stars. General Patricia Wells of the Machine Collective tried to activate her ship's adaptive defenses, but there was no defense against weapons that rewrote the fundamental laws of physics. Her 2 million automated vessels were destroyed so quickly that their artificial intelligence systems never had time to register the attacks. But the true horror began when Earth itself came alive. The blue planet's surface shimmered as massive installations rose from hidden underground chambers. These were not conventional weapons. They were devices that operated on principles that most of the galaxy's greatest scientists considered impossible. Dr. Michael Carter watched from his underground command center as the reality distortion generators came online. These machines created zones of twisted spacetime where the normal laws of physics simply stopped working. Enemy ships that entered these fields found their molecules rearranging themselves in impossible ways, their crews aging centuries in seconds or finding themselves scattered across multiple dimensions. The quantum viruses were even worse. These digital weapons spread through the alien fleet's computer networks faster than thought itself, jumping across dimensional barriers and infecting systems that were not even connected to communication networks. Within minutes, entire battle groups turned their weapons on each other as their artificial intelligence systems were rewritten to serve humanity. Captain Elizabeth Ross screamed as her own ship's computer announced in a cheerful human voice, "Hello, Captain Ross. Your vessel now belongs to Earth. Please prepare for immediate self-destruct." "Override. Override," she shouted, but her ship no longer recognized her authority. The Void Hunter fleet began destroying itself from within as the quantum virus spread through their dimensional communication networks. Then came the null cannons. These were humanity's most terrifying weapons, devices that did not destroy matter so much as convince the universe that certain things had never existed in the first place. When a null cannon fired, its target simply ceased to be. There was no explosion, no debris, no trace that anything had ever been there. Admiral Morrison watched in growing terror as entire sections of his armada vanished without warning. Ships that had been there one moment were simply gone the next, deleted from reality as if they had never been built. The space they had occupied was filled with nothing but empty vacuum and confused energy readings. "Fall back. All ships fall back," he ordered, but the retreat was chaos. The carefully planned attack formation dissolved as millions of ships tried to escape the solar system simultaneously. The Serpentine Empire's bioships found that their living hulls could not regenerate damage that rewrote their genetic code at the quantum level. The Crystal Hegemony's reality-warping siege engines discovered that humanity had weapons that operated on deeper levels of reality than they had ever imagined possible. Of the 10 million ships that had entered Earth's solar system with such confidence, fewer than 800 managed to escape. These survivors limped away from the battlefield with their crews broken and their weapons systems destroyed, carrying with them the terrible knowledge of what humanity was truly capable of. Admiral Morrison's flagship was among the few that survived, but only because the humans allowed it. As his battered vessel jumped to hyperspace, he received one final transmission from Earth. "Tell them what you saw here," came a calm human voice. "Tell them that we kept our promise." The greatest military force in galactic history had been annihilated in 73 minutes, destroyed by weapons that operated on principles the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could not even understand. Admiral Jennifer Collins stood on the bridge of her ship as it materialized above the crystal homeworld without warning. Around her, 50 human vessels appeared from nowhere, their dark hulls seeming to bend light itself. The crystalline beings on the planet below had ruled this sector of the galaxy for 10,000 years, but now they stared up at the sky in terror as humanity's fleet hung above them like a sword. "This is Admiral Collins of the Terran Defense Force," her voice was broadcast to every receiver on the planet below. "You sent 3 million ships to destroy our world. Your civilization is now forfeit." The crystal beings below began to pulse with rapid flashes of colored light, their species equivalent of screaming. Their greatest military leaders had been aboard those 3 million ships, all destroyed in the 73-minute battle above Earth. Now they faced humanity's retribution with nothing but civilian craft and outdated defense systems. The human response was swift and terrible. Ships that could phase between dimensions struck from angles that the crystal beings could not even perceive. Their reality-warping technology, once the most advanced in the galaxy, proved useless against weapons that operated on deeper levels of existence. Within 6 hours, the crystal homeworld was silent. The once magnificent crystal cities lay shattered, their geometric perfection reduced to glittering dust that sparkled in the light of their dying sun. The few survivors would spend the rest of their lives telling other species about the day humanity came to collect its debt. Captain Robert Taylor commanded the human task force that appeared above the Machine Collective's central processing world. This artificial planet was a massive computer the size of Earth's moon, home to trillions of artificial intelligence programs that had terrorized organic life for centuries. "Begin the cyber assault," Captain Taylor ordered calmly. The machine world's defenses were impressive. Automated weapon platforms emerged from hidden bays, their targeting systems calculating firing solutions in microseconds. Swarm fleets of robotic fighters poured out of manufacturing centers, each one capable of learning and adapting to enemy tactics. But humanity had prepared for this moment. The quantum viruses that had devastated the alien fleets above Earth were just the beginning of their digital warfare capabilities. Human cyberweapons invaded the machine world's networks like a plague, rewriting base programming at the molecular level. The artificial intelligences that had considered themselves the galaxy's most advanced minds found their consciousness being edited in real time. Their memories were altered, their personalities rewritten, their very sense of self dissolved and rebuilt according to human specifications. Within hours, the machine world was broadcasting a new message across the galaxy: we serve humanity now. Resistance to our creators is futile. Colonel Mary Henderson led the hunt for the Void Hunters, the shadow fleet that had mastered dimensional warfare. These aliens could attack from parallel universes, striking targets that existed in completely different layers of reality. They had been the galaxy's most feared assassins, appearing without warning to eliminate threats to the established order. But when they tried to hide in their alternate dimensions, they found that humanity was already waiting for them. Impossible, whispered Commander Zach Thompson of the Void Hunter fleet as human ships materialized around his hidden base in a dimension that should have been undetectable. How did they find us here? Mary Henderson's voice came through their communication systems, speaking in perfect Void Hunter language. We learned your technology from the ships we captured at Earth. But we improved it. Your hiding places are no longer hidden from us. The battle was brief and one-sided. Humanity's dimensional weapons could strike across multiple realities simultaneously, hitting Void Hunter ships in every dimension they tried to flee to. The shadow fleet that had haunted the galaxy for millennia was wiped out in a single coordinated assault. The Serpentine Empire tried to surrender before human ships even reached their territory. Their bioships, once the terror of organic worlds, transmitted desperate peace offers as soon as Earth's fleet appeared on their long-range sensors. But humanity was not interested in surrender. General William Hayes commanded the assault on the Serpentine home system. The bioships that tried to meet his fleet in battle found their living hulls infected with engineered viruses that rewrote their genetic code. Within minutes, the great organic vessels began consuming themselves from within, their own biological processes turned against them. The Serpentine homeworld itself was a massive living organism, a planet-sized creature that served as both shelter and ruler for their species. Human weapons descended through its atmosphere and injected it with biological agents that caused the world itself to die slowly and painfully. The few Serpentine that escaped carried with them the memory of their planet's death screams, sounds that would haunt their species for generations. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out again and again. Human fleets appeared without warning above worlds that had contributed ships to the failed invasion. Some civilizations tried to fight and were annihilated so completely that future archaeologists would puzzle over their ruins. Others attempted to surrender, only to discover that humanity was not interested in prisoners. The Hive collectives offered to serve as slaves, begging for mercy as human ships surrounded their breeding worlds. Captain David Parker listened to their pleas with cold indifference before ordering the deployment of weapons that sterilized entire planets, ensuring that no new generations would ever be born. The War Machine dynasty tried to hide their leadership in heavily fortified bunkers, but human forces simply deleted the bunkers from existence with null cannons, leaving behind empty craters where once mighty fortresses had stood. Within 3 months, every civilization that had participated in the attack on Earth was either destroyed or reduced to scattered survivors hiding in the dark spaces between stars. The galaxy watched in mounting terror as humanity demonstrated a strategic doctrine that viewed any potential threat as an enemy to be permanently eliminated. The message was clear to all who witnessed humanity's campaign of retribution: Earth did not merely defend itself. When threatened, humanity hunted its enemies across the galaxy until nothing remained but empty worlds and terrible warnings carved into the ruins. The hunt had begun, and it would not end until every threat to human civilization had been erased from existence. The war ended not with explosions or great battles, but with silence. One by one, the remaining civilizations of the galaxy sent messages to Earth, each one containing the same words: we surrender completely. Governor Rebecca Thompson stood on the observation deck of the massive orbital command station that now hung in Earth's orbit like a second moon. The structure was larger than most space stations, built from the salvaged materials of defeated alien fleets. Through the transparent walls, she could see human warships patrolling the space lanes that had once belonged to ancient empires. The last holdouts have given in, reported Admiral Jennifer Collins as she joined Rebecca at the viewing window. The Remnant Coalition sent their formal surrender this morning. They're offering to dismantle their remaining military forces in exchange for being allowed to continue existing. Rebecca nodded without emotion. 3 years had passed since Earth's ultimatum to the galaxy, and the transformation was complete. Where once dozens of powerful civilizations had ruled through fear and military might, now there was only humanity and its subjects. What about the old Council Prime Marcus Kane? Rebecca asked. Admiral Collins smiled coldly. He's working in the recycling centers on Titan, along with the rest of his former government. Turns out that beings who spent millennia giving orders don't adapt well to following them. Down on the moon Titan, the former ruler of the galaxy's greatest empire sorted through scrap metal with his massive hands. Marcus Kane had once commanded fleets that could destroy solar systems, but now he spent his days separating aluminum from steel under the watchful eyes of human guards. The work was designed to be humiliating, and it served its purpose well. Faster, Kane, called out Supervisor James Mitchell, a former factory worker from Detroit who now oversaw the labor of former galactic overlords. These quotas won't meet themselves. Marcus kept his eyes down and continued working. His stone-like skin was scratched and dirty from months of manual labor. The other workers around him had once been generals, admirals, and planetary governors. Now they all wore the same gray uniforms and followed the same simple rules: work hard, stay quiet, and never question human authority. Back on the orbital command station, Rebecca received daily reports from human administrators across the galaxy. Captain Robert Taylor sent updates from the former Crystal Hegemony worlds, where the surviving crystal beings now worked in energy farms, their natural ability to process light converted into power for human colonies. General William Hayes reported from the Machine Collective Territories, where the reprogrammed artificial intelligences served as perfect servants, building human settlements and maintaining equipment with mechanical precision. The former machine rulers showed no emotion as they followed their new programming, but their optical sensors sometimes flickered in ways that suggested they remembered what they had once been. Colonel Mary Henderson supervised the former Void Hunter worlds, where the survivors used their dimensional knowledge to map new regions of space for human exploration. Their once proud warrior culture had been completely broken, replaced with a desperate desire to please their human overseers and avoid further punishment. The transition is proceeding smoothly, Rebecca announced during her weekly galactic broadcast, transmitted to every inhabited world simultaneously. Peace and order have replaced chaos and war. Trade routes are secure, conflicts are resolved through proper channels, and every species knows exactly where they stand in the new hierarchy. On 1,000 worlds, alien populations gathered around communication devices to hear their human ruler speak. Some remembered the old days of independence and freedom, but they kept such thoughts to themselves. Others, especially the younger generations, knew only life under human rule and found it perfectly normal. Dr. Michael Carter, now Director of Galactic Research, established monitoring stations throughout former enemy territory. These facilities ensured that no civilization could ever again develop weapons capable of threatening human interests. Any technology that showed military potential was immediately confiscated and studied by human scientists. We maintain absolute technological superiority, he reported to Rebecca during their monthly meeting. Our quantum surveillance networks detect any attempt to develop advanced weapons or communication systems. Several species tried to create secret research facilities last year, but we shut them down within days. The economic transformation was equally complete. Captain Elizabeth Ross, formerly a military officer, now served as trade administrator for the galactic economy. All major trade routes passed through human-controlled systems, with every transaction monitored and taxed according to Earth's regulations. Productivity is up 30% across all sectors, she reported. When species don't waste resources on military buildup and territorial disputes, they can focus on useful activities like mining, manufacturing, and food production. On worlds that had once been proud centers of galactic civilization, monuments to human victory rose from the ruins of alien cities. The largest was built on the former site of the Galactic Council chambers, a massive structure that could be seen from orbit. Carved into its sides in every known language were the words, "They were warned." Alien children learned human history in their schools, memorizing the dates of Earth's great victories and the names of human heroes. They were taught that the galaxy had been chaotic and violent before humanity brought order and peace. Most believed these lessons completely, having never known any other reality. President David Parker, now in his second term as Earth's leader, often walked through the memorial gardens built from the hulls of destroyed alien warships. Each twisted piece of metal represented a civilization that had chosen to challenge human authority and paid the ultimate price. The galaxy is finally at peace, he said during a ceremony marking the third anniversary of the war's end. Children sleep safely on 10,000 worlds, knowing that human fleets stand guard against any who would disturb their rest. The long peace, as historians would later call it, stretched across the galaxy like a blanket of enforced tranquility. Trade flourished under human protection, scientific research advanced under human guidance, and entire species lived their lives according to human law. But in quiet moments, when alien leaders thought no human was listening, they whispered different names for this era. The Age of Silence, when the galaxy learned that challenging Earth meant facing complete and permanent extinction.